Drinking is a revolutionary act. At least it was to Bob, the speaker's crazy friend in Adrian C. Lewis's poem, Valentine from Indian Country. Alcoholism is just one of the various elements that directly affects the flow of the piece by making it feel choppy and abrupt. More specifically, the structure of Valentine from Indian Country is a direct reflection of the changing themes throughout the poem, which are destruction of culture and nature, alcoholism, religion, and social discord. As this essay proceeds, it will become clear that the author's structure and flow embodies the very message, or themes, that are being portrayed. The first two stanzas of Valentine from Indian Country are no exception to the aforementioned style-theme relationship that gives this poem the continuity between content and structure that makes it unique. However, since the two stanzas are the intro of the poem, no standard flow has been established, hence it is not yet practical to compare this section to the others, so the first two stanzas will be looked at out of context in the beginning. The theme of this section is that Native American culture, which has a highly celebrated, heavy emphasis on the preservation of nature and wildlife, has fallen victim to technology, modernization, development, and negligence. To exemplify this claim, the poem reads, "On these plains, the plows and drums wrestle for centuries and marry into resignation," which is only the first line. Next it is written, "John Deere tractors unleash the ghost dance, but nobody remembers the steps." Thus the idea of negligence comes into play because nobody remembering the culture can be perceived as neglect. Finally, to solidify the notion of abandonment and neglect due to modern expansion, the speaker states, "Cattle and deer graze together, afraid of civilization and fearful of the forgetful mouth of man." Another point that still strengthens the theme is the most prominent strand in the section. Some of the words used, centuries, old, ancestors, nobody remembers, and forgetful, bring to mind the forgotten past. These first two stanzas, lines 1 through 13, actually become the forgotten past that they portray, as the next section takes an abrupt turn to a different theme and seemingly irrelevant subject matter. My crazy friend Bob used to tell me he thought drinking was a revolutionary act. Of course, this was before he got out of his car in a Badlands blizzard and lurched until he turned into a block of brown ice. The insight of the correspondence between the content and structure of the poem is the exact insight that this essay attempts to and will continue to point out. The second section of Valentine from Indian Country starts with the stanza about the eccentric friend Bob. The idea of alcohol has been introduced and appears throughout the entire section, stanzas 3 and 4. "I ask my doctor if I can drink again." The previous quote shows that the speaker has a problem with alcohol, otherwise he would not ask his doctor about it. Alcoholism, as the theme, quickly becomes more apparent as the speaker explicitly identifies his or her problem. "I haven't in 10 years, and I'm still a bloodthirsty fool." Now that alcoholism has rooted itself as important to the section, it is more relevant to define the general traits of alcoholism, as the trained eye will see how the structure of the poem also reflects this idea. Alcoholism is an addiction, and just like all addictions, it can and will implant itself in the mind of the addict at any time, no matter how inopportune the craving may seem. The abrupt and seemingly out-of-place introduction to the second section reflects the abrupt and high-priority status of such an addiction in someone's life. Similarly, the constant mention of alcohol in this section showcases the ever-impending craving of alcoholism, as well as its ability to nullify anything else important one may have been focusing on, which in this case is section 1, or the degradation of a culture. In retrospect, the theme of forgetting a culture foreshadowed the loss of interest in what used to be deemed important, both the first section as well as the Native American culture. For the final mention of alcohol, the author has incorporated religious allusion. "O sweet Mary of Nazareth, my soul is the black rock desert, and your son is not my wine." This allusion is particularly useful because the theme in the next section, stanza 5, is religion, which was identified earlier as one of the dominant themes. As stated in stanza 5, there is an unmistakable scent of brimstone, eternal damnation. Not surprisingly, there is an unmistakable theme which the previous quote explicitly references, religion. This theme is equally explicit, if not more so than the alcoholism scenario, because the stanza also starts with explicit religious content. Crossing into the res, most white people think they're entering hell. Religion as a theme is just one piece of the theme structure relationship, thus religion is the poem is important. Further evidence of this religious theme is the gruesome, hellish, strikingly vivid imagery that dominates the heart of the stanza. Everywhere they turn are burned out husks of abandoned cars and scarred husks of abandoned humans. shuffling, lost in the dreams of their grandfathers. Religion, being the focus of the last quote, and addiction are interesting binary oppositions because while addiction kills, religion saves. Since religion is the only theme so far to make an appearance before another new stanza, the transition from stanza 4 to 5 is not sudden but quite smooth. The structure of the transition from stanza 4 to 5 ultimately reflects the ideals of religion and how it can beat addiction and sin to make for a smoother, better life that just seems to make more sense to the majority of people in the world, as most people associate with some religion. However, the religious aspect of stanza 5 is much more ominous and ends up on the upsetting note of people in the reservation being poverty-stricken or having a gambling addiction. Hope is only a word used in grant applications or in the leering glare of casino one-armed bandits. The previous quote is important because it leads the reader unto the next theme, social discord, which is equally important to all the themes noted in the essay so far. In the sixth and final stanza, section 4, the smooth transitions from line to line and the ominous subjects of social discord only deepen. Oftentimes, bad things and bad luck are associated with worse things and worse luck, because people become discouraged when bad things happen, and this discouragement makes more bad things easy to happen. This idea remains true in this poem. We are a touch of inexact wistfulness. The previous quote is the speaker self-proclaiming that him and his people are melancholy and longing. At this point in the poem, the scenario becomes increasingly grim and hopeless, which fits perfectly with the smooth-flowing, list-style structure of unfortunate realizations that the stanza takes on. Yes, this is Indian country, and we are bone and juice, 12 frothy ounces of moon drool, a touch of inexact wistfulness, wry evaporation, and eventual extinction. The last quote shows the positive correlation between content and structure by having a series of unfortunate events unfold smoothly before the reader's eyes. This correlation is the structure-theme relationship mentioned many times previously. The author insinuates to us, through changing themes, to forget the stanzas of forgotten pasts, to experience the incessant nagging of addiction through reading, to feel the linearity offered by religion, and to witness the ever-increasing speed of the downward spiral of dismay. However, the possibility that this artfully expressed association is a giant coincidence is not out of the question. As far as evidence for the claim of the structure-theme relationship goes, all pieces of the evidence must be viewed collectively for the picture of that relationship to really solidify itself as apparent. One thing is for sure, the structure-theme relationship exemplified in this essay is in no way far-fetched, but instead has convincing, recurring evidence.